Nobody wants these houses in Calabria, Italy, except smart retirees. While people chase overpriced cities, stone villages by the sea are selling livable homes for 28 to 40,000 euros. In this countdown, we'll explore 6 hidden corners of Calabria, Italy. Each one offers safety, scenery, and everyday costs so low, they feel impossible compared to North America. From stone lanes high above the sea to sun-washed promenades with hospitals just minutes away, these towns give you choices. Stay with me until the end, because the last seaside house has hospitals closer than grocery stores, and number 1 might just change how you imagine retirement altogether. Belmonte Calabro. Morning arrives like a soft bell, a hush that settles over stairways polished by centuries of footsteps. The air carries a trace of citrus and brine, as if the sea has climbed the hillside to greet the first coffee of the day. Here, life organizes itself into short walks and friendly nods. You step outside, and the world answers with bread still warm, a greeting from the shop owner, the distant shimmer of water reminding you why you came. The pace is steady, the kind that lets you notice things you used to miss. Daily costs remain kind to retirees. A 1-bedroom rental in the center might be 500 to 750 euros, with cheaper options just outside. Utilities rarely exceed 230 and groceries sit comfortably between 270 and 370. Dining out remains modest, with a full meal often under 20 euros. Internet is steady and inexpensive. Life feels manageable, not stretched. The trade-offs are simple. Parking requires planning. Sometimes you rent a space for security. Other times, you time errands to avoid the busiest hours. Humidity in ground floor homes calls for a dehumidifier or regular ventilation. Yet these challenges are minor compared to the reward, a steady year-round rhythm untouched by heavy tourism. If you like to measure peace by proximity to care, hospitals are reachable in roughly 25 to 40 minutes by car, depending on which slope you call home. The roads drop gently toward the coast, and trains along the shore link the small stations into one useful line. You do not need to be fluent on day 1. A few phrases carry you far, and those phrases multiply quickly when the baker knows your usual. The daily rhythm is physical in a pleasant way. Stairs qualify as exercise, narrow lanes create built-in walking routes, and the reward is a view that never gets old. Morning sun glances off the sea, and the same path you take to buy fruit becomes a procession of small scenes, shutters opening, laundry breathing, voices that echo softly between stone. Stories grow here, like vines. A retired teacher from Manchester bought a folding bicycle and turned the steep climb home into her daily exercise. A couple from Toronto adopted a lemon tree, only to find their neighbors arriving with fruit baskets and advice. Each tale reflects the same pattern. Arrive as a stranger, and you quickly become part of the chorus of greetings that stitches the town together. If you want a space that is quiet and with a gentle budget, you can get a house here for just 20,000 euros. Tucked just off the old lane, this 2-bedroom house gives you the classic Calabrian footprint without the tourist markup, about 70 square meters across 2 levels, a simple plan that is easy to refresh, and stone bones that feel honest. You are roughly 3 kilometers, around 8 minutes by car, from the sea, close enough to make swimming a habit, and far enough to keep evenings quiet. The location keeps you close yet calm, about 7 kilometers to the sea and 5 kilometers to town for shops and services. On your first quiet evening, you might carry a chair to the threshold and sit with a glass of local wine. The town moves around you at a volume that never rises above conversation. Bells mark the hour. A neighbor calls to ask whether you need basil. And as the last bell fades, you step into lanes that slope down toward the open coast. The view widens, the streets grow livelier, and the next stop greets you with a pulse that mixes balconies, trains, and sea air in one continuous rhythm. Scalea. This town wakes in voices. Low at first, then swelling as the market spreads its colors. Even from the hills, the sea flashes back like a signal. Sunlight pours between tall facades, scattering across shutters painted green and gold. The station sits at the edge, trains sliding north and south along the coast. For retirees, that means freedom. Family visits in Naples without a car. Afternoons spent 2 villages away. Just because the mood calls for it, the sea is always within reach. A short walk or quick ride away, ready whenever you are. Markets keep things grounded. Crates of figs and tomatoes catch the light. Loaves still crackle from the oven. And stories about weather prove as reliable as forecasts. Between errands, you catch glimpses of the horizon, bright and blue, promising a swim later in the day. The routine feels generous because it is shared. Affordability makes this rhythm sustainable. A one-bedroom near the center might cost 500 to 700 euros per month, while options outside drop closer to 400. Utilities rarely top 230, and groceries hold steady around 300. Dining out sits near 20 euros, leaving space for both comfort and spontaneity. Internet keeps you connected without strain. Hospitals are within 30 minutes by car, and clinics handle everyday needs. Retirees often arrive through the elective residence visa, showing passive income, beginning with private coverage near 100 euros a month, then moving into the national system after residency. English is heard in summer, Italian fills the rest of the year, and neighbors gladly help when words fall short. Seasons change, but the town holds its balance. In summer, the streets fill with music and laughter without losing their calm. In winter, the pace slows, and you hear your own footsteps again. The contrast is not sharp but natural, like breathing in and out. If this cadence appeals, there is an open door. A compact one-bedroom apartment with a balcony sits just 1.5 kilometers from the beach, about a 5-minute drive or a longer walk for those carrying towels. Already livable, it lists at 29,500 euros. Around 40 square meters, it carries modest homeowners' fees to maintain shared paths and spaces. What stays with you are not square meters, but what they allow. Mornings that begin with bells, afternoons carried by market chatter, and evenings spent watching the sea glow from your own balcony. Retirement here means routine without pressure and freedom without cost. A retired couple from Toronto discovered they could live better on less. Train rides became weekly rituals, and dinners out became routine rather than luxury. A single pension carried them further here than at home, but what they speak about most is not money. It is freedom, the freedom to live days fully without calculation. But as the coast continues, the rhythm changes again. Nets begin to thump in quiet harbors. Boats rock gently in dawn's first light. And life measures itself not by bells, but by the tides. That is where the journey leads next. Roccella Ionica. Before the sun clears the rooftops, the harbor stirs. Nets land with a quiet thump. Wooden beams creak, and low voices roll across the quay. Water lies flat as glass, holding the first colors of morning. You stand at the edge, watching, and realize the rhythm here is not about schedules, but about presence. Shops open slowly, doors swinging wide as greetings echo across the street. The smell of citrus mixes with warm bread, and the short path to the shoreline becomes part of every errand. The pace never feels forced. Shadows fall kindly across lanes, and even in heat, stone walls keep the town cool enough to wander. Days shape themselves differently. You leave early not to beat traffic, but to walk before the sun grows bold. A swim before breakfast becomes habit, and lunch drifts late because a neighbor stops to share a story. Afternoons belong to shade, evenings to the harbor, where boats bob softly against their ropes. The math of daily life stays gentle. Renting a small home often falls between 500 and 750 euros, with simpler places for less. Utilities remain under 230, groceries average around 300, and a meal out with wine rarely crosses 20 euros. Private health insurance for retirees in their 60s costs near 100 euros monthly, while doctor visits run about 50 to 70. Hospitals offer reassurance without distance. Locre's facility is only 15 to 20 minutes away, and larger centers sit along the coastal line. For foreigners, the elective residence visa opens the door. Show passive income, start with private insurance, and after residency, join the national system by annual contribution. English is limited, but kindness is not. Italian grows naturally here, word by word, smile by smile. Trade-offs ask for flexibility. Parking requires planning, but rented spots ease the worry. Houses need attention to roofs and windows, though prices stay low enough that repairs remain manageable. Because homes start at such modest figures, retirees can afford to shape comfort slowly at their own pace. Marcia, a nurse from Dublin, found herself walking to the harbor each morning just to watch the light turn gold. She carries a notebook filled with Italian words, often written by her neighbors. Over time, she realized her days were no longer measured in hours, but in colors. Blue water, pale stone, golden dusk. For those ready to live by this rhythm, an opportunity is waiting. A 2-bedroom townhouse in Ardor lists for €50,000. Close to 100 square meters, it comes with a small terrace or strip of garden, already livable with minor upgrades. The sea lies less than 3 kilometers away, a short drive of 7 to 9 minutes. Air conditioning cools summer afternoons, and compact heating keeps winter soft. This is not simply a place to retire. It is a way of life built around boats in the morning, neighbors in the afternoon, and slow walks as the day closes. For a fraction of the cost back home, you find not only a house but a rhythm worth keeping. When you step inland after sundown, the soundscape changes again. Pines rise above turquoise coves, cicadas tune the evening, and cliff towns perch ahead like quiet guardians of the coast. If this video is sparking ideas for your retirement, subscribing is the easiest way to stay in the loop. Soverato. The promenade sets the tone, espresso spoons clicking, smoothing the edge of the boardwalk, sunlight spilling across cafe awnings. This is a morning that feels practiced, like a ritual refined over decades. Everything important lies within reach. A bakery where bread is pulled fresh from the oven, a pharmacy where faces become familiar, a grocer who knows your preference for figs, the cafe where regulars nod you into the circle, sliding over the day's paper. The train station sits just beyond, promising the ease of travel up and down the coast. And tucked inside town, the hospital folds peace of mind into the morning routine. Living here feels practical without losing its calm. Homes often balance affordability with comfort. A 2-bedroom apartment, already livable and bright, sits at €44,000. Around 60 square meters, it offers a balcony, storage, and its own parking spot. Small things that matter every day. You count only minutes to the water, not hours, and the sea becomes a neighbor rather than a destination. This area's advantage is care. The main hospital sits just 5 to 15 minutes from most homes, and Catanzaro's larger medical centers lie close enough for reassurance. Knowing that health support is measured in minutes, not hours, lightens the mind. It allows you to enjoy what surrounds you without hesitation. Costs follow that same steady logic. Rent near the center usually lands between €500 and €750 per month. Just outside the heart, €380 to €600 brings larger space or more light. Utilities range from €170 to €230. Internet sits near $35, and groceries hold steady around €300. Eating out feels generous rather than indulgent. €16 to €22 buys dinner with wine, served with the same warmth whether you're a visitor or a familiar face. Here, English is heard a little more than in rural hamlets, especially along the promenade, but Italian remains the language of everyday errands. Regulars notice when you return, and soon a table is held for you. A fish is recommended before you ask, and a shortcut is suggested that trims a minute off your walk home. This is the rare kind of town where practicality and pleasure meet in balance. Trains tie you quickly to Catanzaro, and further up the line toward Rome, the seafront promenade stretches like an open invitation, while the gentle hills behind shelter homes where calm and convenience meet. Neighbors know each other's routines but leave space for privacy. The blend is natural, not forced. If you want the promenade, the train, and care all within easy reach, this checks every box. A 1-bedroom apartment of 55 square meters, about 1.2 kilometers, or roughly 4 minutes by car, from the beach. Light, practical, and already livable. It's the kind of base that turns errands into a quick loop and swims into a habit. Asking price is €45,000. Still, not far beyond the promenade, the land grows bolder. Cliffs shoulder into the sea, light sharpens, and villages cling to rock faces as if painted there. What changes is the drama, not the affordability. Zambrone. High on the headland, pines sway against the wind, scattering their scent down toward the shifting blue. Below, the sea is never content with one color. It turns like pages, each hour revealing something new. Morning begins with errands short enough to finish on foot. You collect fruit from a neighbor's stall, bread still warm from the oven, and a few necessities from the pharmacy. Every stop comes with a greeting, a laugh, or a tip about the weather. Even the steep lanes feel forgiving, shaded by trees and softened by the rhythm of conversation. Afternoons bring a hush, shutters close, light angles into rooms, and the sound of the sea carries up from below. You measure time not by clocks, but by colors. The way cliffs shift from pale gold to honey, then briefly to rose before fading into star-washed dark. The town breathes in seasons, welcoming summer visitors, yet keeping its local calm through winter. Expenses stay manageable. A 1-bedroom in the nearby hills or edge of town rents between €400 and €600. Utilities run near €200, groceries sit around €300, and dining out remains modest, often under €20. Internet keeps you connected for little more than 30. Insurance for retirees in their 60s averages near €100 per month, with private doctor visits around 50 to 70 until national care begins after residency. Safety rests in simple routines. Hospitals in Vibo Valentia are 30 to 40 minutes by car, and larger referral centers remain within reach. The elective residence visa welcomes retirees with passive income, requiring private coverage first, and then annual enrollment into the national system. English appears in tourist corners, but daily life flows in Italian. Every attempt to speak it is rewarded with patience and warmth. Neighbors are the true amenities. Someone lends a lemon, another returns your dish filled with figs. Stories arrive along with advice: how to reach the overlook without tiring your knees, which hour the sea changes its color. Within days, you feel less like a visitor and more like part of a living chorus of greetings. Weather never stays the same but always stays kind. Summer heat invites early swims and midday rest. Autumn winds cool the slopes and stir the pines. Rain freshens everything, leaving the air bright and green. At night, the sky feels closer, as though stars here were meant for those who still remember to look up. Stories find their way to you. Irene, a widower from Brighton, sold her second car and chose a folding bicycle instead. Each morning, she pedals down to swim at sunrise, then buys her loaf from the baker, who sets one aside just for her. She says time here does not feel shorter or longer, just fuller. If your dream includes sea breezes, walkable errands, and a setting that feels both rooted and full of possibility, here is one to notice. There is a 3-bedroom in central Zambrone, about 70 square meters, well laid out and ready to live in. It offers you a bit of everything. You are only a short walk from the beach and just steps from cafes, shops, and daily life. Priced at €60,000, it delivers coastal charm at a fraction of what you would expect elsewhere. The home spans 2 floors without an elevator and carries the familiar rhythm of Italian seaside living. Light spilling through its rooms, balconies that lean toward the breeze, and the sound of the sea waiting just beyond. See, night falls here, with skies so close they seem to bend low over rooftops. Yet inland, away from the postcard coast, another rhythm waits. Orchards, stone gardens, and evenings marked by silence instead of surf. Now I want to hear from you. Of all the spots we covered today, which one pulled at you most? Which one felt like it could actually be your future address? Drop it in the comments. Santa Barbara, Hamlet. Morning rises gently here, with roosters calling from nearby farms and church bells drifting down from stone towers above. The lanes are quieter than the coast, lined with low walls where rosemary and wildflowers spill into the path. The sea is visible in the distance, but daily life feels rooted in gardens, orchards, and the slow rhythm of hillside air. Neighbors wave from terraces where grapevines climb and tomatoes ripen in neat rows. The sound of tractors replaces scooters, and errands are simple: bread from the bakery, milk from the shop, vegetables straight from the field. Everything needed is near, yet the sense of space and calm sets this hamlet apart from the busier shore. The cost of living here is even more forgiving. Rentals drop closer to €400, utilities stay modest near €200, and groceries hold steady around €300. Dining out in the local trattoria is both affordable and personal, often under €20 for a full meal with wine. Internet and phone keep you connected, though connections here feel more about people than screens. Healthcare remains within reach. Hospitals sit 30 to 40 minutes downhill, with larger referral centers in Cosenza and Catanzaro, accessible by car. The elective residence visa applies here as anywhere in Italy. Proof of passive income. Private insurance near €100 a month until national enrollment after residency. For retirees, it offers a practical path without complication. Daily trade-offs come with rural calm. Parking is easy, but buses are less frequent, meaning a car is often essential. Shops close mid-afternoon, requiring errands in the morning or evening. Yet in return, you gain silence, broken only by birdsong and bells, and nights so dark that the stars seem to multiply. Stories here lean toward the simple and the grounded. Paolo and Margaret, a couple from Leeds, planted a small orchard after moving in. They share jars of homemade jam with neighbors and receive baskets of figs in exchange. Another retiree, widowed and alone, found unexpected company when a neighbor insisted she join Sunday lunches. In time, she became known simply as Nonna Inglese. If this life appeals, where gardens measure the seasons and friendships are woven over fences, there is a home already waiting. a 2-bedroom stone house in the Santa Barbara hamlet of Belmonte Calabro, is on the market for €45,000. Spanning roughly 80 square meters, it carries the character of thick stone walls and includes a small garden plot with lemon trees that look toward the coast. The property is livable yet rustic, leaving room for your own touches. Best of all, the shoreline sits about 20 minutes away by car, giving you both privacy and a connection to the sea. Retirement here is not about spectacle, it is about balance. Quiet mornings, neighbors who share what they have, and a pace that restores. For under €50,000, you can claim a piece of hillside life, close enough to the sea to hear it on the wind, far enough to feel peace. That's a wrap. It's been a pleasure walking through these towns with you. The story doesn't end here. The next video on screen opens another chapter of affordable living abroad, and I think you'll find it just as inspiring.